I've been with wealthy married women as a paid companion since I was 19. I've been debating for 2 weeks whether to write this. I finally decided to. This isn't a flex. It's not a look at me thing or whatever. It's something I've kept completely private for just over 20 years, and my family still has no idea. And I'm spitting this out now, I guess, as some form of therapy. It started in 2003 when I was 19 and working at the Everglades Club in South Florida. I parked golf carts. I brought drinks. I set up events. I did a bit of everything at the time. If you paid attention in a place like that, you saw more than most people would ever believe. 6 months in, I got to know one of the members. Late 40s. Absolutely stunning blonde. Always put together. Married to a man who was almost never around. We talked and we laughed. The conversations became more personal and then more than that. One night after meeting up away from the club and sleeping together, she handed me $4,000 in cash. For a 19-year-old in 2003, that was more money than I had ever held at once, let alone seen with my eyes. She convinced me to leave the club, and for 2 years we spent a lot of time together. Through the circles she brought me into, I met others at charity dinners, private events, and weekend getaways. They would bring me along without explanation. They bought me things and covered expenses. Over time, it shifted into a series of discreet paid arrangements. Over the years, I have slept with women married to 8- and 9-figure businessmen, senior executives at major companies, and well-known names in certain industries. Almost every woman I have met that is a wife of a wealthy guy are in some form cheating outside their marriage, and many of their husbands know and did not mind. For some marriages, it's more about business, image, and convenience than romance. Early on, I became obsessed with female psychology and with intimacy itself. I studied body language, timing, and patterns of behavior to understand why women who had everything still sought something more. I am no longer financially dependent on this part of my life, but I have never stopped. The money I made early on became the seed for investments, which I do live off of currently. In a little over 20 years, I have been to 31 countries and have stayed in expensive suites. I have been on yachts worth more than neighborhoods. I have seen affairs outlast marriages. That's enough of me. Ask me anything. Edited. Due to the unexpected virality of this post and the amount of people asking for a deeper breakdown, instead of the surface level, I'm fine with doing another post that goes more in detail only if that's something people actually want to see. In all those years, were you ever caught by the spouse or worried about your safety? In just over 20 years of doing this, I can only recall 5 women ever actually getting caught. Out of those 5, only 2 ended up divorced. The rest stayed married, and surprisingly, things did not change much. The reality is that in these circles, the marriages are often more about money, image, and social positioning than love or exclusivity. A lot of people on the outside do not understand that dynamic. If a woman does get caught, it is rare, but the husband's reaction is usually one of 2 ways. Either he is quietly fine with it from the start, or he is angry at first but eventually comes to terms with it. The reason is simple. Divorce for these men is financially devastating. If she has been with him long enough, she could take half or more of his wealth plus ongoing support. Many of them would rather swallow their pride than lose hundreds of millions. I have also had situations where the husband was not just aware but directly involved. More times than I can count, I have been with a woman while her husband watched. Sometimes it is a control thing for him. Sometimes it is just voyeurism. And other times it is a mutual kink they have kept private for years. It is not as uncommon as people think, especially when you are dealing with couples in extreme wealth who are used to getting whatever they want. As for my own safety, I have never had a situation where a husband came after me violently, but I have had to leave quickly when someone came home earlier than expected. You learn early on to be careful, to only move in situations that are controlled, and to trust the discretion of the women you are seeing. For the most part, they are the ones making sure everything stays quiet. Did any of the women ever let you know beforehand that they were married? Did you ever feel like the couple picked you out together? Yeah, some told me up front and some didn't mention it until later. There were also a few situations where it was very clear the couple had picked me out together, usually after a night out or an event. Those tended to feel more planned, but sometimes it just happened in the moment. What have you observed by being around in the upper echelon of society? Are people disposable to them, or are they genuinely looking for a connection with people? From what I've seen, it's both. In the upper echelon, people can be disposable if they serve no purpose or bring no value, but that doesn't mean they don't crave connection. The problem is their version of connection is different from most people's. It's often transactional in some way, even if it's not about money. It could be about status, influence, access, or just the excitement of being around someone who isn't part of their usual world. For a lot of them, real emotional connection is rare. They're used to everyone having an angle, so when they find someone they can relax around without worrying about judgment or ulterior motives, it hits different. That's part of why some of these women keep seeing me for years. I'm not in their social circle, so I don't compete with their lifestyle and I don't expose them. In their world, trust is more valuable than money. Help me break into this industry, mate. It's not something you apply for or send a resume to. It's almost entirely looks driven, and whether people want to hear it or not, a lot of it is race driven and what your body type is too. The reality is these women tend to have very specific tastes, and a huge number of them are drawn to black men. That's just the truth from what I've seen over the years, and luckily enough, I'm black. The rest is about being in the right places where wealthy women are, like high-end charity events, luxury hotels, private clubs, and art shows. You can't force it, and you can't look like you're trying too hard. There's always women wandering around, and you must approach. This is fascinating. How is it that your family still has no idea? How do you explain all the trips? Are you still in touch with the original woman? Do you still see her? My family's never really questioned it. I just tell them I'm in real estate and in finance. If I'm in Europe for a week, they just assume it's for work or something. I haven't heard from the first woman since 2009. Speaking of the first woman, what was the process of driving golf carts to sleeping with her for the first time? Who started flirting first? Was it her idea to go all the way? How long did it take from the first meeting to sex? With her, it started slow small talk, playful comments, lingering eye contact. She was the one who pushed it further, and from our first meeting to actually sleeping together was maybe a couple of weeks. What does it mean that you were paid $170,000 for 4 days? Like, how do you internalize that? There must be some sense of pride in that. At the same time, it feels absurd. How does one rationalize this level of consumption with the level of need others have? What is a rational response to this? It's definitely surreal when you first experience it. You go from seeing numbers like that as something you'd only hear about in movies to actually having it wired into your account for less than a week's time. At first, there's pride, but it's more of a shock factor. You realize quickly that in certain circles, money flows on a completely different scale. To them, it's not reckless spending, it's pocket change in the context of their wealth. I don't really rationalize it in moral terms because in that world, it's normal. These are people who live in a completely separate economic reality. They'll spend that same amount on a bottle of wine or a watch without a second thought. It's not about need versus excess for them. It's about what they want in the moment and being able to have it. You just happen to be part of what they want. How much did you make it total over the years doing this? Did you lead these women on, or did they come to you? How does that conversation start? Over the years, I've made a little over 7 figures from the women, but way more from the business side of things I'm involved in. In the beginning, I never really had to lead them on. It was usually the women who insisted on it. Now, it's all word of mouth. I keep a small set of clients unless someone is paying really high and it's worth my time. Wait, your first was $4,000. Your highest was $170,000 for a weekend. And in 20 years, you barely cleared $1 million over that time? Most 40-year-old neckbeard Redditors have made 7 figures since 2003. You're looking at 2 specific numbers and treating them like they're representative of my entire career, which they aren't. Those were standout situations, rare highs, not regular rates, and the reality is that most arrangements were negotiated differently. Some were long-term setups at a lower but steady figure, some weren't about money at all, and plenty of opportunities I could have taken I walked away from because they didn't fit what I wanted at the time. The way I've lived and the choices I've made have never been about chasing every dollar possible, and while the money has been very good, it's never been the sole reason I've stayed in this world. There's a lot of context and details I've left out for privacy, and without that, it's easy to make assumptions that don't really match how it all played out. How long and girthy is that rod? Total length is 9.25 inches and width is about 1.5 inches. What are some things you've learned from it that have served you well in your life today? One of the biggest things I learned is that women are far more sexual than most men give them credit for. They need sex a lot more than men think, and for many, it's not just about the physical side, it's about the way it makes them feel alive, wanted, and powerful. A lot of men assume women can just go without or that they only want it for romance, but that's not reality. In the right circumstances, they'll match or outpace you without hesitation. The next thing I learned is how money changes the rules. It's not just about buying things. It's about the leverage and access it gives you. Money opens doors that are invisible to most people, and once you see how quickly it can shift power dynamics, it's hard to ever look at it the same way again. In that world, the people with resources are the ones who set the tempo for everyone else. And as much as the luxury and influence can look perfect from the outside, the truth is most of these wealthy people's lives are hollow. The smiles at the galas, the vacation photos, the picture-perfect marriages. A lot of it's a front to keep up appearances. Behind closed doors, there's loneliness and boredom. In your opinion, how are women different from men? Can you say that you understand women now? Women and men move through the world with very different operating systems. Women are often more in tune with emotion, atmosphere, and the underlying tone of a moment, while men tend to focus on action and direct solutions. Men will usually try to fix a problem immediately, while women might want to sit in it, feel it out, and navigate it on a deeper level. Neither approach is better or worse, they're just different ways of moving. Over time, I've learned that understanding women isn't about memorizing a list of traits or tricks, it's about paying attention without forcing your own perspective into the space. You start to see patterns in what they react to, what makes them feel safe, and what draws them in. They value connection that feels genuine, even if it's brief, and they can tell instantly when something is forced or fake. The smallest detail, like the way you look at them mid-conversation, can mean more than a grand gesture. I wouldn't claim to fully understand women or be some expert because no one really does. I only really know them sexually and what their wants and needs are sexually. How can one prove they're a male? Proof of what exactly? You want me to post bank statements, flight itineraries, hotel folios, or maybe a selfie on a yacht with someone's wife and a thank you card in the background? My identity stays private, and so do the inner details. That's part of why I've lasted this long. Thanks for watching. Drop a comment if you've ever dealt with something like this, or just share your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the other videos on the channel. See you tomorrow. Love you all.